I graduated from seminary all prepared to go into camp and conference work, and discovered that every camp and conference I interviewed for wasn't interested in me. And I decided okay, I'll be a youth pastor someplace, and I interviewed for associate positions in churches all over the Northeast where I was then living. Couldn't find a job. And one day, one of my friends called me up and said, a colleague said, I need pulpit supply for one Sunday. I'm going on vacation. I need pulpit supply in this little country church where I preach. And I went there that Sunday morning, had dinner with him that week. And he said, well, how'd it go? I said, good. I want the church. And he said, okay. I took us 6 months to persuade the presbytery and all everybody how to work it out, but he was ready to move on. And but I knew that Sunday morning this felt just perfect. It felt right. So I said I'd stay for 6 months or 2 years. I was separated, and maybe 2 years. And what was it, 8.5?
Wow.
Yeah. So the short interim stuff, it goes to 3.5 years. I'm familiar with that sort of phenomenon. God decides for us how things are going to happen.
You had to wait for me.
That's right. I did. I did.
That's exactly it.
And whether it's there or other stuff. I mean, most of my career moves have been surprises. Things that I did not expect at all. I didn't know where I was going, and I couldn't find a position in a church. I interviewed a variety of places, including some of the churches in this presbytery. And one of my friends, and this is where God acts in your life. One of my friends, a colleague, the pastor of First Pres, said to me on a Sunday night, have you thought about interim ministry? Well, I'm not sure I'm ready for that sort of thing, but, I'll think about it. He said, well, if you want to, I'll be glad to give you a reference. So I thought about it that night. The next day I called to find out about interim training, found out that I could get into interim training through the Interim network, and I signed up for the class, and I hung up the phone and said, how am I going to pay for this? The presbytery office called me and said, we have some scholarship funds if you want to do interim training. Okay. So I sent off a check to the network, filled out the application forms with the presbytery, went to a meeting on Thursday and one of the people who was there was another interim pastor, a friend of mine. Talked to him about interim ministry. On the way home, mailed the scholarship application and the check to go to New York to the Interim network, thinking, well, okay, now I'm going to take the training, now I've got to go find a job. And I walked in the door, and there was a message on the answering machine from a church in Lansing saying, we understand you might be interested in being an interim pastor. And that's the point at which I said, all right, I hear you, Lord. I went to Lansing. And I think that's really the key to the journey sometimes is getting to the point in your life where you wake up in the morning and you say, and how's God going to surprise me today? Because, Lord knows I wasn't planning to ever be here. For a variety of reasons. I mean, among them having known Mark since '89 when we came to Michigan. But also this was not the place I would have chosen. That's why we call it God's will, I guess. And no regrets. I told somebody the other day, if we knew everything that we were going to face coming here, in spite of and some of the joys and some of the what's the polite word is the challenges, the opportunities for spiritual growth that would come, and somebody turned around to me and said, we want you to go back to Fort Street, this urban setting again, in a heartbeat, my friends, in a heartbeat, we'd be here. You have been as great a gift to us, at least, as we could have been to you, and it's been a wonderful time. now we just have to find out what God's next surprise is.
So,
Well, I told her, there aren't, I told her, you know, our long-range plan is to go be grandparents and find some work somewhere in Missouri so we could be near the grandchildren. So I was online the other day and I discovered that there's a United Church of Christ looking for a pastor in the town where our kids live.
go for it, go. I'm gonna say no.
So
Do it.
and I'm not anticipating moving, but then again, I have no idea what the future holds for us.